Hello there, I'm the Dragonator, and I like fairy tales. Happy Halloween, everyone! I hope that you are having a very safe and happy Halloween. So if you're not in the US, I don't know if other countries have this, but there is an event that's called Daylight Saving, and during this time, you get to fall back your clock by an hour, and that's not going to be until next Sunday. That'll be fun. I like this time of year a lot because then I get to have an extra hour of sleep on Sunday. I'm sure that there is a fairy tale character that doesn't care about that sort of thing though. And sure enough, there is. And it's actually a very iconic fairy tale that we'll be doing today instead of the King Arthur story. And it's called Sleeping Beauty. Once upon a time, there was a kingdom ruled by a king and queen who married because they loved each other very much, which was extremely rare back in the day. For a very long time, they wanted a child together, and soon they did, and it was a glorious occasion. Their subjects cheered. It was a daughter, and this adorable princess would be named Aurora after the dawn. A christening was to take place for the princess, and the king invited as many fairies as he could find across the land. Fairy tales were an endangered species, but he was able to find 7. That's 7 too many, but I digress. For these 7 fairies, special tableware was prepared and placed in their honor for the celebration, and they would be Aurora's godmothers. Everything was going well in the party, but there was one fairy that looked to be the odd one out. The overlooked 8th fairy. Turns out there were 8 fairies in the land. Great. Where are her special tableware goodies? Turns out the reason why she was overlooked is that everyone thought she died, and usually, before a fairy dies, they seclude themselves to a part of Earth where they are never seen again. The 8th fairy, though, was alive and kicking, and she was mad. One of the younger fairies knew something was up. So before the gifts could be given to the princess, she hid away from the rest of the fairies. The other 6 gave her great gifts. These were gifts like a beautiful singing voice, the ability to play every musical instrument, and graceful dancing. You know, requirements to be an iconic fairy tale princess. The overlooked fairy, though, had a trick up her sleeve. Her so-called gift was that when she grew older, she would get a prick on her hand from a spindle and die. Way to ruin everything! This is why you invite every single fairy to your parties. You don't want that to happen. The last fairy, the one that hid away, had a gift too. She couldn't completely reverse the spell, but instead she told the king that her gift was that instead of dying, she would be asleep for years and years until a prince comes along to wake her. This didn't cheer up the king, though, and the party soon ended. From that point on, there would be no more spindles anywhere in the kingdom. So I guess all the clothes would have to be imported then. This ban on spindles would last for about 16 years. The little baby princess Aurora would grow up to be a beautiful teenage princess Aurora. She seems to use her fairy godmother's gifts wisely, which is to be expected from an iconic fairy tale princess. One day, she heard something strange she had never heard before. It was definitely something unfamiliar, so she decided to look around for the source of the noise. Aurora soon found the source, and it was a piece of gadgetry she'd never laid eyes on before, and an old woman was using it. The princess had so many questions. What are you doing? What is it for? What is spinning? How do I do it? Can I try? Please! Soon enough, she tried to get her hand on spinning. No one knows why it happened, whether from clumsiness, the spell activating, or maybe it's some sort of prophecy where the princess would be so clumsy that it would have happened in the first place, so the fairy had to make this event a magical occurrence. Whatever the case may be, she pricked her hand and fell to the floor. The old woman was shocked. She went to every corner of the castle to try to get some help. First it was a servant who fainted at the sight of blood, and the other one was one of the maids. Because the king and fairy who helped the princess were away, people had to grab both of them and gather them to the castle. The kind fairy had an idea. Who knows how long the princess would be asleep? It could be hundreds of years before a prince could wake her up. She hatched up a plan. All of the princess's loved ones would drift to sleep along with her, never aging. The castle and surrounding area would be surrounded by thorns, which only a kind-hearted prince could properly slash away to enter. There was one who was the castle staff who overslept, but he couldn't go back to the castle due to the thorns. Oops! Many years later, rumors spread about the kingdom covered in thorns, such as it being haunted, or that witches and wizards met there on occasion, or that a child-eating ogre lived in the middle of all the thorns. There was a prince who noticed the thorns and wanted to know for himself. One of the servants told him the most unusual hypothesis. My dad said there is a beautiful princess in the castle who has slept in that castle for years and years, and that one day a prince will wake her. Beautiful princess, you say? This intrigued him. He was actually a kind-hearted prince with no princess to call his own. Driven by love, he attempted to go in there himself by slashing the thorns. It was easy peasy lemon squeezy for the prince, but impossible for his subjects to follow him, for as soon as the prince passed through, the thorns would go right back, impenetrable for all but the prince. It took a bit for the prince to find the princess, because he didn't want to wake the rest of the castle. He really didn't have to turn it into a stealth mission, but go on. Soon he found the rumor of the princess to be true. She was still as beautiful as the day she first fell asleep. He kissed her hand, and she finally woke up. "Are you a prince?" she asked. "Oh my gosh, it has been so long!" They talked for hours and hours as the castle went back to its normal self. They quickly fell in love, as everything was going back to normal, and it was only a matter of time before the prince met the princess's parents, who didn't age a day. The princess's father knew where the prince came from and arranged a meeting with the prince's father quickly. Both kings agreed the two would be a good match, and the prince and princess lived happily ever after. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you soon. Stay safe and have a very good rest of your Halloween. Bye!